So I recently asked you guys on Facebook to let me know what you struggle with more, whether it was sticking to a regular exercise routine or sticking to a diet. And hands down, the results were that most of you guys have a lot harder time sticking to a diet than you do getting exercise in or making exercise a part of your routine. And so I wanted to offer you a strategy that I actually used recently with one of my clients to kind of help navigate some of those issues we have resisting temptation. So for a lot of us, we can plan the diet even if we know what to eat, but if we happen to be walking into the break room at work and we're having a bad day and there are donuts there, or maybe we end up starving and you get home late at night and you had a healthy dinner plan but you're just too tired to cook, and there's something really easy like a fast food drive-thru on your way home, we tend to give into those temptations. So what you have to do to start working your way past them is dive into why that happens and develop a strategy to overcome it. So with this particular client, she really wanted to stick to her diet. She's getting married, she has a weight loss goal, and she wasn't having so much trouble getting the workouts done, but she was finding that she was tripping herself up on her diet. She'd be good for a day or two, and then things would happen, life would get crazy, work got stressful, and she was finding herself not being so compliant. And that was holding her back from getting the results that she wanted. So what we did is we put together a worksheet with a strategy for her to basically give herself a way to get around the temptation. So first things first, figure out what your trigger is. What's the temptation? What's the thing that you find keeps tripping you up? Whether it's, I go out to eat with my spouse or my boyfriend or girlfriend and I try to make a good choice, but I can't resist ordering a glass of wine. Or this person always wants pizza and I don't want to do it, but I have a really hard time saying no. Or maybe it's the donuts in the break room at work. Something is getting in your way and you're finding that no matter what your plans are, you end up giving into it. So first figure out what it is. What's the trigger? What's the biggest obstacle that's holding you back that you want to overcome? Once you've identified that, we need a strategy so that when that issue arises or when you're presented with that obstacle, you have a way to get yourself around it. Very often, it's just a diversionary tactic. So for this particular client, she said when she walks out of the restrooms where the bathrooms are at the place where she works, there's a bowl of candy, which, yeah, it's going to be hard for a lot of us to resist a bowl of candy sitting right in your face every day, and especially if you're tired or you're stressed or you're dieting and you're not super excited about dieting, and there's candy there. And one piece of candy won't hurt, right? Except if it's a piece of candy every time you use the restroom every single day, yes, that adds up, and yes, that can prevent you from reaching the goals that you want to reach if you're trying to lose weight or be healthier. So what we recognized was that she needed something to take her mind from the candy and focus it somewhere else. She knows the candy's there, she knows she's going to see it. And she said, sometimes even if she's able to walk past it and go back towards her office, it's in her mind. The candy's still in her mind and it's there. So what we recognized was that she needed to find something else to distract her mind. Often when we get tempted or we're snacking and picking, we're not really hungry, we're just either bored or we're trying to avoid something else. A lot of times it's about avoiding something else that we either don't want to do or we don't want to think about, or we don't know how to do, or we don't really know what to start with, and so on. So we distract ourselves with something we can do, which is eat. So for her, we said, okay, you're either going to, when you see the candy, you're going to walk past it, and you're going to get back into your office, and you're either going to jump into a project that you know will focus your attention for work, or you're actually going to strike up a conversation or get on a text or a phone and talk to someone. And I said, if that has to be me, if there's nobody else around, call me. I don't care. I'll talk you through it. But it couldn't just be email or something, or social media, something that's kind of distracting but not really. It's got to be something that completely changes your focus. So whatever that is, you have to figure out what it is, write it down, commit, and be accountable to it. So what we did is we set up a little piece of paper, and every single day, what's your goal for today? What are your potential temptations? How did you manage them? Yes or no? Did you actually manage to avoid them, and what did you do? And over time, you retrain the habit. So if her habit was to see the candy, eat the candy, but she spends a few weeks really working at finding a diversion and makes her habit that she doesn't eat the candy, eventually it doesn't become a choice. It's just what you do. There's a bowl of candy there. I don't eat the candy because I have other things to do and I have goals that I want to reach, and I just don't eat the candy. And then there's no choice that has to be made. Once you've gotten past the point of having to create the obstacle and it just becomes the way you live, you don't have to choose. And so your brain doesn't have to work as hard. The answer is no. I'll give you an example. I actually don't drink alcohol. I used to. I just found that when I drink alcohol, I don't particularly like it, and it doesn't really help me with my goals that I want to reach. It's not great for my physique. It tends to make me feel not like working out, and I like to be productive. And I just found that it wasn't really worth sacrificing those other things. So I stopped drinking. And when I identify that as who I am and what I do, when someone asks me if I go to a holiday party or a get together and someone says, "Hey Melanie, would you like a glass of wine?" I don't have to think about it. It's not, do I want, I don't drink, and I believe that and I know that, so I just say no. There's no decision that has to be made. And that's because I've gotten myself to a point where this is just who I am and how I live. It takes time, and you do have to continue working at that, figuring out what the triggers are, figuring out what's worth it to you. I'm not suggesting that everybody has to stop drinking. That was, for me, something that, when I weighed two back and forth, I didn't really prefer to drink, and it was something that was easy for me to let go, and it also didn't, align with some of my other priorities. So figuring out where that balance is, maybe it's a drink once a month. However, once you get yourself to that point where it's not something that your mind has to wrestle with, should I, shouldn't I, do I want it, do I not want it, it's just I don't do it, then it becomes a lot easier because you don't have to actually make the decision. So what I encourage you to do today, if you're reaching for some kind of a goal and you're struggling with something that you feel is holding you back, identify what it is, maybe what's triggering it, and then give yourself some kind of a way of working around it, whether it's a diversion, whether it's an accountability partner. If I feel like I want to eat chocolate, I'm going to do 10 push-ups, whatever it is, write it down, stick to it, and make that your goal for this week.